And welcome back to another GACC podcast where we're going to be discussing games, anime, computers, and collectibles, but not necessarily all those in a week. I am still your host, Harrison, and to my right...
Batman. James.
Batman's not black. Can't be Batman.
Black man?
I'll allow it. And to my left...
Darkman.
Darkman's not...
Faust.
Wait, Darkman is white.
Shit. You should be Owlman, and I'll be Batman.
I'm Owlman?
Yeah, you know, from...
Watchmen?
Watchmen, yeah.
Yeah.
What about...
I'd rather be Darkman.
He could be the big blue guy.
What about Luke Cage, Hero for Hire?
Okay, so talk about cool things. You could be Owlman, I'll be Batman. He could be Robin. You're Robin.
I'm Robin?
You're Robin.
I don't think so.
He could be Rorschach.
He's not cool enough for that, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's...
No, he's a reporter at the end of the movie
Yeah.
who gets the journal. That's you. You're not even a main character. You're a side character.
You're not even in the movie.
I know, right?
How mean is that?
I like the world that you live in because
he comes in at the end. He's not even important.
Because when it comes down to like Jenny Fedora Productions,
Yeah.
you know, it's like I'm the main character and you're the comic relief.
I'm not a comic relief. Your face is a comic relief, but I'm not a comic relief.
Well, speaking of GACCast,
Yeah.
we're coming up on our 1 year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. In 2 weeks, right?
Something like that,
Yeah, a couple weeks.
So we are going to be at the Lizard Tail Lounge.
Brewery.
Lizard Tail Brewery on the 15th of July. We're going to be starting at 1 o'clock, and we invite anybody in the area. Come on down. We're going to end up doing a semi-live pre-recorded thing where we're going to be talking with the audience and everything, and while we do our podcasts and whatnot. So come on down, grab a beer, check out a good local micro brewery, and
say it 3 times fast.
I can. Why? And hopefully we'll get to see you there as we are celebrating a year of content creation.
Yes.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing you guys there.
So besides breweries, because drinking and driving is always a bad thing, so don't do that.
Yeah.
That's why you have Uber.
Always drink responsibly.
Taxi cab.
Right.
And not only the other one, there's like another service.
Lyft.
There you go.
Yeah.
Bring a designated driver. We might
Or
have
that designated driver.
we might have something special for the designated drivers.
Yeah.
So we're having to put up with us. But in other things that are stupid to do, did you all read about the YouTubers this week that tried to do a stunt that went wrong?
They went wrong.
It's such a horrible thing.
They tried to, I think, see if a book could stop a bullet.
So what it was this couple who were making sort of a name for themselves on YouTube as a teen couple that they were. She was underage. She was like 18 and pregnant, or younger than 18 and pregnant, and they were doing their best to have the baby and raise it and everything like that. But they wanted to get famous on YouTube. Or the boyfriend, more importantly, wanted to get famous. And so he shot a book with a gun, a Desert Eagle, and showed her that the bullet didn't go all the way through this book. It was a hardcover encyclopedia. And then convinced her to shoot him.
Based off history, because someone had a bullet stopped by the Bible.
Something like that.
Right? Or not, maybe a movie. I'm not thinking, not history, maybe a movie.
He was convinced that the book would stop the bullet.
Yeah.
So he convinced her to shoot him from 1 foot away,
very sad
holding
thing.
an encyclopedia.
Very sad thing.
With a Desert Eagle 50 cal.
Yeah, 50 cal.
.50.
The 50 cal?
Yeah. And it proceeded to go all the way through and shot him center mass, and he didn't survive. So that is quite sad. There are a lot of people who are making fun of it, calling it a Darwin Awards kind of thing and everything like that. I think it deserves a little more reverence that, it was kind of a dumb reason to go and do that kind of thing. But anything that involves you shooting somebody with anything other than the intent to kill is kind of a dumb idea.
Yeah. And there's actually something more to this, tragedy than just, it's a 19-year-old and a 22-year-old, and she's pregnant with the second kid, and she's been arrested and all. But the thing is these are the extremes that people are trying to go to get views on YouTube.
And you shouldn't do that.
No.
You should not do that.
I mean, it really is kind of like there are certain levels of things that draw audiences that are not the kind of, it's like, the train wreck stuff, and it's not the kind of thing that you really want to be promoting as a way to become famous or to have those views or anything like that, because especially when you make a name for yourself out of being edgy or live off of the shock or something like that, it really just is a matter of pushing that envelope, and how can you be worse than you were before? How can you do worse than you were before? And if you start off your fame by basically avoiding getting shot by a bullet, like if that had actually worked for them.
But why didn't they get a blank though? Why did they
because anyways, if they got a blank, then they would probably get accused of faking it. And a lot of people that do pranks on YouTube, there's quite a few. There's been controversy around that have been called out for staging the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So while it would have been safer to use a blank, they wouldn't have worked. Yeah.
But this is something where it's like, even if that, we don't want that to work.
Well, there's a reason why they say don't try this at home.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing with this is not the only one. There's another one this week too, but I'm going to finish up on this one first. The thing is that there is a real lack of planning here. There was a lack of gun safety because, one is they obviously did not have enough experience with the firearm. They did not test the firearm on enough books.
Yeah.
And he also was not wearing a bulletproof vest.
Which really, if you're going to have a gun pointed at you and the trigger pulled, you want to have protection, regardless of if you think it's not going, that it's not going to hit your person. I still believe fully in that first rule of gun safety, which is you do not point a gun at anything you do not intend to kill.
Right.
And that means, doing stupid tricks with your gun is, that should be automatically like, why do you even have a gun if that's what you're going to do with it?
That sort of thing needs to kind of be left kind of up to the professionals, but even then it's like, in this case, it's like there is the tragedy involved. This 19-year-old's life is ruined. She's taken her boyfriend's life and something she's going to have to live with, and the kids are going to have to live with the rest of their lives. There is a part of me that also goes, they were ignorant and kind of got what they deserved.
No, there's still no reason to make fun of it, though.
But I'm not making fun. I'm not making fun of it.
I know you're not.
It's tragic.
It is tragic.
It's absolutely tragic, and that's where I'm going to leave it. I don't really know.
Yeah,
I'm not going to make a statement on whether or not they deserved it.
That sucks.
It's tragic. It shows a distinct lack in proper training or education. It shows just how easy it is for people who don't really need them to get hold of dangerous weaponry. People who don't know how to use it, being able to handle those kinds of things. And this is horrible. And she's going to have to face the consequences of her actions, both personally and within the justice
Yeah, she could still end up going to jail for this.
She's currently under trial for manslaughter as of this recording.
Yeah.
So, a lot of these, the reason we're commenting on it, because it did go out there, it made the rounds around there, and a lot of people were going, stupid couple or whatever. Like, we have to understand, a guy died. A child, 2 children now are fatherless, and a mother is going to have to deal with that.
That's a lot. That's a lot of consequences to have to face now for fame.
For the sake of being famous for, what, like...
15
minutes.
Seconds, yeah.
15 seconds of fame on YouTube.
Now, this is not the only dumb one coming up this week. There's one that's a little less dumb, but still very dumb. Is 2 YouTubers have decided to live stream burying themselves alive. So they made coffins, they dug a hole, and they put themselves in it, had somebody cover them up, and they have an air hole for the whole box system. Mm-hmm. But they are buried underground right now for 24 hours.
Okay. With
some supervision, of course, but still, this is it's a highly risky thing they are trying to do to get views.
The buried alive thing has always been sort of a spectacle. It's been going on even before we had moving pictures, even before we had movies and stuff like that. Like, these were certain magician acts and things, escape artist acts, stuff like that, being able to survive in these kinds of conditions. And this is also kind of the thing, like, I think there was a while ago, some guy in Las Vegas basically spent, like, some ungodly amount of time, 48, 72 hours submerged in water. Like living underwater.
I remember that, yeah.
So this is again the kind of thing. It's like, it's a spectacle. sort of thing.
It's
a train wreck. It's people putting their lives on the line or taking risks to perform a stunt to gain views and things like that. And it's a fine line, you know, like this is something where kind of, yeah, I approve of that if they are doing it within proper guidelines. Like this, I mean, people have been burying themselves alive. We have been burying people alive as a species for a while now, sometimes unknowingly, but
go on.
We have been. There are articles where they think where they think that the person's dead, and they're not dead, and they bury them alive.
Yeah, that has been a pretty common fear before we had actual definitive rules on declaring somebody dead, where somebody was just unconscious or comatose or whatever,
and then they wake up,
buried alive. So we've actual proof of this. Now, people doing it as a stunt, as an escape artist trick, or as a survival kind of thing, saying this is what I'm okay. I mean, you said it themselves. They're under supervision. They have proper safety in that there's, you know, some form of air. Hopefully, they have some sort of equipment in there. Should the rig fail, they're capable of keeping themselves breathing for a certain amount of time.
Well, they can help.
I don't think they have a oxygen system backup. I mean, they're not buried too deep. They're only buried like 2 feet. Or, you know, it's not even like
it's not even a full 6 feet under with you know, that kind of thing. So, I mean, I've seen this done. I think I've seen Chris Angel do it. I've seen it tested on MythBusters. Like, you know, we've seen this before, and that they're doing it great. It's a good stunt. You're doing it properly by having safety, by having supervision, so that there's somebody there to intervene should things go wrong.
So I'm like that one, even though it's stupid, but they're doing it right.
They're doing it right.
Yeah.
And it really does become, okay, this is how you start off. This is how you got your notoriety. What's the next big thing? And it's just, you know, a question of how long are you going to continue until you do something wholly stupid.
Well, the ones that are burying themselves alive, this is just a continuation of crazy things that they've done. Like they filmed themselves just walking and getting into people's cars at stoplights, you know.
That's a good way to get shot.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Well, except they're doing it in the UK, and nobody in the UK has guns, so
that's a good way to get stabbed. Yeah. We actually have a problem with certain homeless people doing that here, locally. I've heard news reports where they just get in the car and like try to accost people for money.
Yeah,
stuff like that. Or sometimes they're just so demented that they don't even know that what they're doing is wrong. And that's the horrible part. Is like we have a really bad epidemic of that going on right now. I'm glad my car's doors lock automatically.
Yeah. I mean, who's driving around without their car doors locked anyways? That seems kind of...
Sometimes you forget. Sometimes, I mean, the car I had before, the one I have now, didn't have automatic locks. Didn't even have locks I could control from the driver's seat. They were manual locks that anybody getting at that door, which means they stayed locked most of the time unless people were stupid and didn't lock my doors. And I have made good on threats to make people ride in the trunk if that's how they're going to use my car.
Well, that's okay because there's a safety lock now on the inside of the trunk to let themselves out. So that's a perfectly acceptable form of transportation now.
Yep.
I mean,
but it means something that I don't really try to keep anything of value visible or in my car for very long periods of time. I don't store things in my car generally, because I've had a car where I've gone out and, you know, it's been unlocked for overnight or however long I've been into work or something like that because somebody else rode in my car and didn't lock the door, even though I've asked people multiple times not to. It became a bit of a pet peeve. And so one of the things that I made when I was looking for a new car, one of the rules that I made was it had to be a car that I had to control the locks from the driver's side, that I could lock it. And now I have a remote, one of those key fob things, so I can lock it in just, you know, as part of like getting out of the car, I lock it.
Yeah.
I can make sure it's locked. And I'm glad it's not one of those key fobs where I click it until it honks at me. I hate that. That's a pet peeve. I hate people who just make their car kind of like chirp a little bit or something like that. My car has an alarm.
They do it like 6 times?
Yeah.
It's locked. Okay, it's locked.
You got it. Yep. But the other nice feature is if I drive my car over 10 miles an hour, all the doors lock.
Yeah, mine does.
So that's a safety feature as well.
I like that with the newer cars.
Yeah. So, you know, proper safety where it's necessary, and definitely you don't want to go. That's one of those things where it's sort of like one of those social experiments, or like, come on, it was just a prank or something like that. Where they were sort of, yeah. I mean, that's a dumb idea.
Yeah, that's. I mean, calling social experiments pranks and you're doing some silly things like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's. I don't know.
Let's do a social experiment. Let's go find somebody who is just trying to make a living doing their street performance kind of thing. Like there's some robot just kind of like doing a dance when they're
I've seen
or
those.
something like that. A busker. Let's go find a busker and just harass them.
Yeah, and they get punched.
Yeah. Apparently, that is the result of a social experiment. You harass buskers, and they beat the crap out of you.
Right?
Yeah.
Sounds legit.
Well deserved.
Right?
Yeah.
So
You piss someone off long enough, they punch you.
So speaking of getting punched,
Yeah.
So
You got punched?
I don't know. I might get punched.
Okay.
So what you got to talk about this week? Because I don't know, because it's not
I'm gonna go ahead
in
and
the
punch you.
Slack.
Can I punch you? I did. We're gonna talk about what's also lame is gonna be. Was it Amazon or was it Amazon's anime thing?
Amazon's anime thing. I didn't see anything about this in the Slack.
He posted.
He posted.
You're stealing my stories now?
Hell yeah! No, I'm just kidding. I didn't post anything because I figured we just talk about everything that's there.
I think. Do you mean this thing I posted today, which is not Amazon, Netflix?
So what do you got? Let's hear what you got, James. Let's put you on the spot. What do you got?
Well,
Let's see if you read more than the headlines.
I did read. I read about Vorbis and I read about Brother, and it's a book, Small Gods, and it's
what does this have to
by
do?
Terry Pratchett.
What does this have
You
to
said
do?
if I read. You didn't see what I read.
Did you read anything in the Slack that was posted?
I like the fact that he decided to take a little bit of that conversation
Yeah.
and not the whole context of it, because he
I'm a
doesn't
politician.
No, you're not.
listen. No, you're not.
I know I'm not.
So you got nothing. Is that what's going on?
Are you trying to get punched?
You got nothing.
Are you trying to get punched?
That was a pretty good segue, right?
I was actually going to talk about the stuff I didn't cover last week, but that's okay though.
What'd you not cover last week?
The anime, the video games.
We talked,
And actually, I was going to bring up video games that were on sale.
but we talked about anime last week.
Not a lot.
We are in the middle of the Steam sale. It's going to be ending in about
The 5th.
4 days.
Yep.
So
And there's a lot
That's
going on.
and this isn't going up until 2 days from now. So you're going to be telling people about sales that they'll have a chance to grab until 24, 48 hours after the show goes live.
That's still a sale.
It's like last minute Christmas shopping.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll allow it.
Because you can get like a bunch of Sonic games on sale.
Okay.
I bought 2 of them. I bought Sonic Generations.
Uh-huh.
And I bought someone's Sonic Racing Transformed because we did this.
All-Star
we did
Racing
that. All-Star
Transformed. Yeah, we
Racing
did an odd
Transformed.
man out on that one.
Like that game. That game was fun.
Have you picked up anything for yourself personally aside from Sonic games?
Sonic Generations. And
That's still a Sonic game.
Yeah.
what
What else?
thinking. I don't think I got
You have
anything yet.
anything else? I bought, much to my, like in hindsight, my regret, space-based DF9. Thankfully, it was only $1.
Oh, yeah.
I love how much for a bit there you were trying to justify that one. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, right? It was $1.
It's still a game I can play, and I can see the potential in it. But if it weren't for the fact that it has some sort of fan support, and even then that's dwindling, it wouldn't be a very enjoyable game.
There is something I want to bring up.
What?
Even. The new Doom game. They're making a new Order 2.
That's Wolfenstein, not Doom.
Wolfenstein. Sorry. Wolfenstein, not Doom. Whatever. They're both the same.
These are the jokes,
No,
folks.
they're not.
They are making a new Wolfenstein. BJ Blazkowicz is in it.
I love the fact that I just
Is
say
he
that.
actually
He's
in it?
actually in it. I know we did make a statement during our E3 coverage that BJ Blazkowicz was not going to be in the new Wolfenstein game.
He can't be. He
And
died.
then I forgot to make a retraction. He's there. He's in the trailer. You are playing BJ Blazkowicz in the second game.
Apparently, he didn't die at the last moment. He teleported like Goku and got out
Yeah.
of the blast rate.
I don't know exactly what all went on there, but
But
he's
they're
in
making
it.
a-
He's in the
they're making
trailer.
a 2.
Yeah, there's a second one.
I kind of want to buy the first one because it's on sale right now for about $10.
Yeah, I mean you can pick up the
Wolfenstein
first...
or Doom?
Wolfenstein.
Which Wolfenstein?
New
Wolfenstein
Order.
3D? Oh, the New Order.
Yeah.
Order,
New Order 1.
and Old Blood is also on sale.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
which is the standalone.
Because you had the
Yeah.
Wolfenstein reboot in 2009 that you can't buy on Steam anymore either.
I already have that one, though.
I picked up Tom Clancy's The Division, and I'm actually enjoying playing that with some friends.
Nice.
It's got some interesting. I can see what people were complaining about with it, where you can basically the enemies turn into these massive bullet sponges. But it really is just making sure you stay up on your equipment, and you can still have fun playing it.
You can.
Granted, I'm coming
Most
from,
games you have, except for...
I'm one of those sick people who still plays Borderlands, so...
I play that game.
Yeah.
All right, so except for that one game that was returned, 350,000 copies almost returned, Rust.
Rust, yes.
I saw whoever posted that, and I read that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, 330,000...
Roughly about 330,000,
copies of Rust have been refunded on Steam, totaling 4.3 million.
That's small. That's small because that's 7% only.
That's not even like every copy that has been sold of Rust. Like lots of people are playing Rust. Lots of people still own Rust. The people who make Rust have said that it's not. I mean, they say that the things that are cited for the refunds are that it's not fun or that it has bad performance on their system. They understand this. That it's not even a concerning thing that this many games have been refunded, because especially with the way the refund system it works, people are getting the game, checking it out, not liking it, and if they played it for less than 2 hours,
they get returned.
They've still made like over $50 million.
Yeah,
I'm not dissing that. I'm just saying they returned it.
So but that means it's a good game. It's a good game, and so it's interesting to see this 329,000 people return this. Being only 6%, that's
not bad.
An amazing amount of support.
When you extrapolate that out, that's a lot of people who didn't return the game.
Yeah. Did you guys see the reviews for the game? It kind of reminds me of another game that's about like a survival game.
Minecraft?
No, there's more.
No, I was thinking 7 days to die or 7.
Yeah, 7
days to die.
7 days to die.
It kind of reminds me of that, but
there's Ark Survival Evolved, which is kind of along the same lines, except with dinosaurs. The big thing about Rust is that there's really not there are some in-game enemies, some NPC enemies, mostly wolves and bears, that are dangerous, that will track you down and hunt you and everything like that. And there is an antagonist in the form of an attack helicopter that patrols around the map periodically during the day cycle. And goes to popular locations within the map, and if it happens to see you, then it tries to kill you. Gotcha. So those are the only antagonistic forces in Rust. Aside from that, the game itself is actually really designed around establishing camps and bases with your friends, and then having other people on the server do the same with their friends, and then going and messing with other people's bases.
Cool.
So breaking in, stealing their resources, basically making the game difficult for them. And providing some form of challenge there. There's similar architecture in that to Ark, where you do the same thing. And 7 Days to Die kind of has that, but really 7 Days to Die pushes more the aspect of the zombies, and because they're everywhere and they're always apparent.
All this does is this reinforces for me that people like griefing. People like games where,
which is exactly why I don't like playing Rust, and only sort of like playing Ark.
Yeah.
Because I've figured out where my niche lies within these games, which is something I term bitch work. I like grinding out. I like, breaking apart rocks and cutting down trees and gathering together materials and making sure the smelters are going and everything like that. And basically just making sure we have this massive amount of materials available to build up the base. And then everybody else can be in charge of making sure the base is built up like a honeycomb to make sure people can't just carve their way through it. And generally, let them go ahead and do all that stuff. I'm there to essentially level myself up and kind of enjoy the crafting angle of things. Cool.
I can't say anything when I play hours of Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah.
No, that game is masochistic.
It's like I play a tank and I let things hit me in the face all the time, so I can't say anything.
So let's bring up this old chestnut again. It's in the news again. Apparently, video games are not good for you.
What is not good for you?
Video games are good for you. Video games are bad for you.
Coffee is good for you. Coffee's bad for you.
Yeah, according to the Weekly Standard, as of late June, if I can get past their pop-up there, the thing about it was that video games have become more popular, and what they're actually doing now is making it so that young men are playing video games instead of getting jobs and establishing lives as like families and everything like that and becoming productive members of society. So they're actually delaying their development. Like, that's the new argument. It's no longer that they make you violent or that they're bad for your health because of poor posture and bad diet and things like that. Now it's just actually affecting society. Video games are bad.
Okay.
No, that would not be video games that's preventing people from becoming productive members of society.
That's video games.
That's going to be, part of it was the economy crash that happened in 2008. And, you have a younger generation than us, that's either Gen Z or let's say millennials, whichever way they want to call it nowadays.
Yeah, I don't even know.
Because of the inflation and cost of living is staying more so at home, you know? And besides, if you're a young person and you're going to college for 5 years playing video games, that you're not going to be a productive member of society, you know, at that point anyways, you're still learning.
Yeah.
Video games is not the problem. That's like saying we need to take away all the guns because all these shootings are because of people playing video games. I mean, this is because
video games make people shoot people.
Yeah. And apparently video games make people unproductive members of society.
An even older
so
testament.
therefore, video games are bad.
You know what also makes people unproductive? Reading books.
Therefore, video games are bad.
There was actually a credible around the time that it was pretty common to just like spend your time, get all your information from the newspaper. There was an argument that newspapers were making people antisocial because all they were doing was just buying newspapers and reading them. And they weren't spending time interacting with like their fellow man.
That sounds like
it crops up every now and then. It's that whole eggs are good, bad, eggs are bad, good kind of thing. Just keeps on popping up over and over and over again because they just can't. You can't make up your minds, can you? Maybe it's just people need to kind of examine their priorities when it comes to that sort of thing. If they have an opportunity, they shouldn't let it pass them by. But if there are no opportunities, the video games is a good way to distract yourself. It's a lot better than, doing drugs and being generally, asocial.
Destructive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the whole point in this whole video games are bad? They're saying it's basically...
They're saying video games are bad because it puts an excess strain on the parents because then the kids just basically... The kids... The grown adults is what they're calling. The grown adults spend their time at home, not getting a house of their own, not getting a life of their own, not getting a job of their own, and it makes their wage slave parents unduly stressed because they have to work to support this lump of a person.
Lump of a person.
A lot of this argument, didn't this come out of like South Korea also, I think? So that's a little bit different too. But South Korea, isn't South Korea the one that forces you into the military service for like a couple of years anyways?
South Korea is one of many countries that has a mandatory military service. But it's not just South Korea. It's a lot of countries, in fact.
Interesting.
Yeah. A lot of prosperous countries, in fact.
With the military service, yes, for the most part. Was it even like, is it not Sweden? Switzerland does it too, right?
Switzerland does, yes.
Yeah. But I was just so surprised seeing this. I mean, but, I don't know. It's like we got to find an excuse for something.
Yeah, it always pops up, and they're just trying to find new ways to basically say, boo video games. But
you know what also is bad? Podcasting.
I could find an argument for that. Yeah, definitely. I could agree with that.
Breathing is bad for you.
Well, essentially, yeah, because if we aren't breathing, then our body isn't oxygenating, and then therefore promoting the, what do you call it? The corrosive process. Is bad for you. Yeah, I mean, not breathing is worse for you.
See?
Yeah, but breathing is bad for you. Yeah, especially depending upon the area you live in, you could be getting a lot of pollutants, a lot of poisons.
Yeah. When you have dogs, there's a lot of pollutants and poison.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially when your dog eats something bad and you're like, oh.
Yeah. So, but the other thing is with video games right now is there's a strike going on for voice actors?
Yep.
Hasn't that been going on for some time now?
That's been going on. We reported it on it when it was
ago,
in its inception. Yeah, months ago. We reported near the end of 2016. In fact, we reported on this actually becoming a thing. And it's the thing is we reported on it. It became kind of a rumble in the news, and then it sort of quietly slid away because it's just not relevant enough to people's interests. But yes, this is a thing that's still going on. This might be why you're seeing delays on certain video games, or even changes to games where your beloved characters aren't returning, or they're bringing back older games that aren't really that voiced. If you notice, a lot of the games that have been announced, they don't really have those characters that you know and love coming back to them or anything like that. And so the reason behind this whole thing was because the working conditions for voice actors in video games specifically are rather grueling compared to most other voice acting challenges. because it's not just recording a plot line's worth of dialogue. It's recording that plot line and then every side plot line on top of that, and every single scream and bump and other kind of Foley work and everything like that has to be done in the character's voice. Sometimes they're held to grueling schedules where, you know, even if they are pushing their voices to an absolute limit, they're still required to come back the next day and work for 12 hours.
Yeah.
And continue doing that. And on top of that, they are getting absolutely no residuals for these games that are making millions, in some cases billions of dollars, and they get paid flat rate.
The interesting thing is that this is the longest strike in the SAG-AFTRA history. So that's the thing, is the strike started, we didn't hear about it stopping, it just went blah, 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 blah away.
It's continued ongoing.
But where this is interesting is because the after effects of it, you're now getting to see at E3. Like, Life is Strange has completed its entire first season, and it's going into a second season. There's a Life is Strange 2. The voice actor for that was not able to come back. They had to get a different voice actor that was non-SAG-AFTRA. Because, and change it up because of this strike.
Ashley Birch is not reprising her role as the main character in Life is Strange.
That sucks.
She was the voice also of Aloy in Horizon Zero Dawn, which is probably the last thing she worked on before the strike actually occurred. The thing you have to keep in mind is, yes, SAG-AFTRA is just a Screen Actors Guild voice actors kind of thing, and it's because there is actually no formal union for video game voice actors. That's one of the things that they're calling for, is that this workforce should unionize as their own thing. But a lot of the ones that are under the SAG-AFTRA union are utilizing their position there to strike in general and say that this is a horrible injustice that's going on.
Well, and they ham this up relatively well, you know, because one of them being Steve Bloom, who's made a statement about this. He's been in like 261 different roles in his career.
It's a industry record almost.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but he says that he has lost his voice for over a week on several occasions.
Oof.
Passed out from screaming, even thrown up and bled from the throat. And he says he's one of the lucky ones that has not sustained permanent damage. He says that he knows of many who have required surgery and been put out of work for months. This, while there is probably there's some truth in this still feels like it's been hammed up a little.
A little bit, especially because voice actors like Steve Blum are rather prolific. You know, you can name these names and have them under, like David Hayter, Nolan North. Like these they show up not just in video games but in animated work as well, or CG, or you know, the occasional walk-on role in a movie or a background role or something like that. And then it still is because there is no real regulation on the kind of work that you have to do, and there's no real concern for the health of the voice actor or their ability to continue working. It's, can they bring the role? Can they do the performance? And in some cases, it is a grueling performance. Steve Blum is not lying when he says that he has to, you know, pass out from screaming. He has to push his throat, push his voice in ways that most people wouldn't normally have to in a role. And on top of that, they're required to work longer hours in a video game sense.
Yeah,
they're required to work for less pay. And nowadays, the other thing that's actually becoming major is motion capture, where these actors, in order to actually play their roles, actually take part in the motion capture for the characters. But even then, they've actually been to the motion capture sessions where they're required to do these, you know, massively acrobatic video game character movements, and there is no safety equipment around. There's nobody in there to like provide proper physical safety
guidance
and that kind of thing. So their health is not being looked out for. They could actually injure themselves doing this kind of thing, and it would be a horrible injury that they wouldn't be able to recover from in some cases.
That point is one of those ones I can kind of see, because I mean, you see a lot of the mocapping nowadays, and they're doing a lot of things, you know, and because a lot of the characters are being done for more than just the voice acting. So I can kind of see that.
Okay.
The one that I think is actually the most valid point for the strike is the royalties or residuals. So typically in a movie is released a home video, the actors involved get a guaranteed 4.5% of the revenue in the first year.
Okay.
But video game actors currently receive no royalties.
That's
they get a flat rate, and if
that's
the game does surprisingly well, they don't see any of that.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Holleck was probably one of the most notorious ones that this came up with like Grand Theft Auto 4, or even a couple of the voice actors for Grand Theft Auto 5. Mm-hmm. They were paid $100,000 for their work. Lots and lots and lots of voice lines in this. I mean, because you're considering these is more voice lines than as in an actual movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
game paid like $100,000, and then seeing no residual income when
the game is successful.
It's a billion dollar game. Yeah,
like that $1 billion. I mean, yeah, granted, it had to go to cover some of the overhead and development time and everything like that, but you could still.
But they should get some.
I mean, they put in this. I mean, we've already outlined the grueling conditions they had to work under, and they're getting nothing for a successful performance. Essentially,
yeah,
they get less than a voice actor does for a television show or even a commercial.
Yeah.
Well, I hope the strike goes in their favor.
Yeah. The other thing they wanted to point out, which is quite interesting because we understand the need for secrecy within the video game industry, especially when something is developed and they want to kind of push the hype or make sure that it's properly marketed. A lot of times they'll be hired to do a role as a voice actor and not told the role that they're playing, even as they're in there reading the lines.
Wow. Right.
It makes their job unfairly difficult.
God, it does.
Well, not just that, but it also gives them no leverage to negotiate the contract.
Because, I mean, yeah, everybody knows David Hayter is the voice of Solid Snake. You know, he is that character, and everybody was shocked when he wasn't brought in to be the voice of Snake in Metal Gear Solid 5. And they said it's because it's not Snake, it's Big Boss. And they wanted to set up some sort of reason for that, but it almost kind of makes you think it's like, you know, David Hayter's been doing the voice of Snake for so long, he kind of has the right to demand what he wants.
Yeah,
for that. And since Konami is currently having their meltdown dumpster fire as like they just completely alienate the entire gaming industry and pop and fandom and everything like that, of course they'll kick Hayter out because they don't want to pay his wages, and they'd rather pay Kiefer Sutherland, who probably came in, and even though he's a name, and he's a name in television and movies, he still probably asked for less than Hayter would to reprise the role.
Maybe.
It's a possibility.
A possibility.
Well, it's the same thing with like movies too, because I mean, when you look at movies, typically a movie, it's like the first movie in a series, the actor usually doesn't get paid. You know, they may get paid $350,000 plus royalties, but it's like Iron Man 1, I think it's like they got some of the actors in there only got paid like $300,000 or something. It's like it's the whole thing that went on with like Wonder Woman in DC only making so much up front plus royalties, but later on they're going to be able to say millions of dollars because now they are needed to reprise that role.
Mm-hmm. And look, you made money off of this. You made money off of me, and now you want me to do it again. It's going to cost a little bit more.
That's why Han Solo was able to, with this, the last Star Wars movie, or next to last Star Wars movie that was done, was able to walk in there and go, "You're going to pay me $80 million,
yeah,
or else you don't have me." You know, because I mean, part of it is Harrison Ford just was like, "I don't like the Han Solo character. I don't want to reprise the role and everything like this. I got screwed over hard during the initial movies that were filmed, and so." He had an opportunity to basically, you know, they were like, name your price. And he goes, 80 million. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm sure he probably said higher, but
he basically ended up making bank off of that because he knew what they had.
Yeah.
Now, here's the sad part. Take a wild guess as to industry's reaction to the strike thus far.
Who cares?
Yep. The industry itself is not concerned. Industry leaders, the ones that have been named in these negotiations, while they are trying to negotiate, is basically their position is get back to work.
Well, pretty much.
They are unconcerned.
Well, the video game industry has always been relatively not friendly to a lot of their employees. I mean, there's always a high turnover of game developers and everything like this. Really long work hours. Mm-hmm. You know, you have. Activision, it was either Activision or EA, I think it was EA, got accused of 100-hour work weeks with no overtime pay, especially during crunch time.
And, you know, we hear horror stories about the workforce over at Konami, where even now there are reports that Konami will actually, like, torpedo workers who are trying to use their experience at Konami to get jobs in other parts of the industry.
Yeah.
They will if they've discovered that, then they will actually call these places and give a bad reference for this person simply because they mentioned their work experience at Konami as a way of getting a job.
Yep.
So, you know, the industry itself is kind of rotten from top to bottom, has been for a very long time. And it's because it's a major popular industry that has been kind of grown up around a sort of punk development lifestyle where, you know, now they're these major big corporations. But when they first started out, they were just a garage house kind of thing where people were just putting out whatever worked, because computers were still a thing. And now gaming has sort of come into the fore, and I think this is one of the major growing pains that the game development industry is kind of experiencing, where it's like, now you've got to straighten up a fly right and really treat people fairly.
Well, especially now that the video game industry actually makes more money than the movie industry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's one of the weird things there too.
So this remains to be seen, but I won't put this up specifically because I didn't want it to just kind of slide under the radar and not be a noticeable thing. There is a strike going on. There is contention going on. They are making no headway, and there is no real way that people can really sound off about that other than publicly.
Yeah.
So if I have a forum to make this, and this is my forum, then I want to make sure that the word gets out.
That's good of you.
You know, the people who make the things that you enjoy, the people who voice the characters that you know and love, they are not getting a fair shake.
No. And that's just all part of the industry. It's kind of sad.
Mm-hmm.
So keep in mind the voice actors next time you're playing a video game.
Definitely.
John St. John would like to do some more lines for Duke Nukem.
Yeah. Definitely, because he just did them for the 25th anniversary or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people were complaining that there was a distinct change in fidelity between the new voice lines and the old voice lines.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's kind of what happens.
And while you're sitting there contemplating how horrible it is to be a game designer, now you can go do it in Vegas and get served by a robot.
We knew that was coming.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, robots can be kind of flashy, or they can be prompt, and they can give you the drinks that they want.
Didn't I bring this up at one point? I did bring this up.
The robots serving you in Vegas?
Not in Vegas, but I brought up robots in industries.
Oh, yeah. Robots in industries is a thing that's going to be going on for a while. Mm-hmm. This one's interesting, though, because a strip bar in Vegas has, and I think it's an actual bar on the strip, not a strip club, because this is in the Hollywood, Planet Hollywood. They have a bar now that has a couple of robotic bartenders that you basically use an app, you order your drink, they make the drink precisely, you know, and I'm sure they have a way to like check for the IDs and whatnot too, but
yeah, I'm going to be amused by this the second that one of those robotic arms cracks a bottle over somebody's head for trying to touch them inappropriately. Ooh, shiny.
There's something. Well, it's interesting because they're just making a drink. You don't have to tip them as a robot, you know. Versus bartenders, you usually tip. That way, they will not short your drink. Typically, to potentially get a little bit more in it, or just because they're good at communication and socializing properly. Mm-hmm. So that's gonna be an interesting thing, and robots are going to be starting to take over a lot. And a lot of people right now are just going to this bar because this is something new.
Yeah, look at the robot arms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know. But, you know, when everybody figures out that they mix watered down drinks, because every bar in Las Vegas mixes watered down drinks.
Right.
It's like, you know, it's the same cheap
cheap
swill that gets served no matter what. Mm-hmm. You know, just come on, keep drinking, keep gambling. Like, the novelty will fade off.
Yeah,
I believe. Yeah.
But it is Planet Hollywood, so it will probably
be a while.
There for a while. Yeah.
So another bit of thing that I discovered today, Netflix has announced that they are releasing the TV series, the actual TV series for Little Witch Academia.
The actual series? Because they did it last time, and they only did episode 1, and that was it.
No, so apparently this is the thing. I actually did a deep dive on this, because I was confused as well.
They're releasing half of the first season.
So, yeah, they're releasing half of the first season of the TV show that you and I haven't really paid much attention to.
Okay.
What we're talking about when we say episodes 1 and 2 are actually the 2 movies that spawned this whole thing to begin with.
Which is an OVA.
Yeah.
So the ones that are on there now are the movies.
Yeah, so the ones that you've seen, where the first movie released in 2013, that was the one where she actually goes and
becomes a witch
and takes on the dragon at the end and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one where she goes and starts becoming a witch. First released in 2013. The second movie, the one that we saw where she team up with the other three
and take on the giant golem.
They take on the golem thing. That was a crowdfunded movie that showed how popular the series was. Mm-hmm. That started with a goal of 150,000, ended with 625,000 in funding. So they were able to come up with a movie by 2015. Also in 2015, they got picked up by Netflix at the end.
Good.
And so that's where we saw those. In 2015, those things were showing on Netflix up until now. TV series aired at the beginning of this year.
Interesting.
Based on Little Witch Academia in Japan. It got up to 25 episodes. Netflix has announced that they're, as of this month, June, they are going to be releasing, and they said, the full seasons. All of season 1. They've released 13 of the 25 available episodes.
Good.
All in one fell swoop. And they're saying that's your lot. Like that's the first season. And so fans of this show who have been keeping up with it, who have been trying to,
are pissed
because right now Netflix kind of has a stranglehold on the Little Witch Academia television series. They're the only ones who are allowed to distribute it. Crunchyroll can't get it. Amazon can't get it. Netflix is the one who's holding on to it right now.
This is the same.
It's a Netflix exclusive.
This is the same thing all over again, but in the internet age, because this happens all the time in traditional cable TV media. So,
especially when it comes to importing anime and anime series, because the format for TV series in Japan is drastically different than the way that they do things here. And while Netflix has got what has people pissed off is Netflix has gotten into the habit of releasing all of a season, especially if it's their own show.
Yeah.
So they release all of a season and let people just marathon their way through it however they like. Which means that people who are unfortunately in some sort of review or critique role have to marathon that faster than anybody else normally could.
Ew.
So when they say that they're going to be releasing a series, especially a series that they have supported now for 2 years, they have supported it, and they say that we have the TV seasons and we're going to release the TV seasons, everybody's expecting the whole season.
All 25
episodes. And we only get half that. Because Netflix.
Well, that's
because reasons.
Because
they're holding off the crack. They're like,
see also, if fucking Ghost in the Shell Arise, which at some point had a full release of the TV episodes or the little miniseries that was there, and then Netflix took down the second and the fourth, so you could watch episode 1 and episode 3, and they never bothered getting the movie that is Ghost in the Shell Arise, which came out after all of that. So, Netflix hates anime unless it's something that people are paying for, like Ruby
or 7 Deadly Sins.
Yeah. I mean, the Castlevania, arguably.
Well, that hasn't been released yet.
Yeah, but when it comes out, it's going to come out. Mm-hmm. And so it's like if Netflix doesn't think that there's any money involved in it, and this is the thing, is like it's getting on Netflix because of fan outcry.
Well,
but it's not getting on because people saying that they're going to pay for it.
So here's the thing: is one, there really is no money in it because the fans have already watched it. Mm-hmm. Okay. 2, the fans end up keeping other people away from watching it.
Please expand on that.
Yeah, go on. Now you're on the spotlight here, buddy.
Well, that's the thing. Sometimes is you get these hardcore fans, and especially with anime, there's a lot of times that they get so obsessed with something that whether it's dubbed properly or not, it's like dealing with a home user that uses Linux and is such a neckbeard that they are so pretentious that it has to be their way or the highway. So when it gets dubbed wrong, or if it gets cut a little bit different between the Japan version and the North American version, they cannot allow this stuff to go, without saying anything about it. And then they go raging all over the internet about it. And it's like, if this is the type of people that watch this stuff, why do I want to? It
is something that fans are pointing out, is that of the episodes that have come out, the subbing on these episodes are nowhere near as good as like fan subs and stuff that is actually when they were trying to localize it. So there's a thing that it's being treated horribly. Not only is not the whole thing being released, but the stuff that is released is being horribly localized.
I mean, I remember this happened even with like One Piece. Was the last one that I kind of followed like an outcry on. And when they released One Piece, it was by 4Kids, I think is the one who initially did it.
Okay.
So they made some new intro music, and it was like some like rap song. They took Sanji's cigarette because he smokes, and they got rid of his cigarette and replaced it with a lollipop. Captain Smoker lost all 3 of his cigars, and they did some.
They changed a lot of stuff to make it more kid friendly.
Yeah, to make it more kid friendly.
When it's an actual serious anime.
Yeah, and
weird enough to say about One Piece.
I think it changed hands at some point away from 4Kids to somebody else, and I think that the person who took it over, I think it was Funimation, ended up. I think they redid that first season, and they've put some of that stuff back in. They've gotten a little bit better voice actors, but that's the other thing. Is like when it's dubbed, it's for English versus hearing the original Japanese voice, and it's so totally different. Sometimes like people's minds just blow and go, why did you choose this person when it's a totally different octave or something else to be the voice for this character, besides just bad subbing, and that's sometimes.
Well, I'm glad they never bothered to find somebody who sounds like the Japanese voice actor in Dragon Ball for Goku.
I was thinking the same thing. I'm sorry. I was thinking like, wow, have you heard Goku in Japanese? Oh God, it's annoying.
Yeah, if that's what I had to listen to for the entirety of the
I wouldn't have watched Dragon Ball Z.
Dragon Ball Z, I wouldn't have watched it.
I'd have like done.
Or it's like when they dub
he sounds like
some are aesthetic choices.
He sounds like a whiny kid.
Or it's like what was it? Evangelion.
Yeah.
When they, the kid was already whiny, but they somehow managed to find an even more whiny and annoying kid for the English version.
It's true. Shinji's original voice dub is,
I still have
pretty
those.
special.
It is.
I still have it.
Yeah.
When they re-release DVDs, anime on Blu-ray, they actually get better dubbing.
I'll believe that.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes. But a lot of times they do.
So I did pick up Ghost of the Shell Arise. I know I announced this on a previous show. I'm pretty sure. So when I got it. I just got it and was like, oh, great, it's on Blu-ray. And that's all I really looked at. But apparently it's on Blu-ray dubbed. And then I actually got a DVD where it's dubbed and subbed. But it's normal DVD, standard dev. The Blu-ray is not subtitled.
Because I know I mentioned one a while back, too. I was Escaflowne.
Oh, God. Yeah. I mean...
So,
oh God!
Last little bit of tidbit of news for me. Apparently, there's new ransomware going around. So, WannaCry was just the start of like the tip of the iceberg.
Yep.
So, there's a new ransomware going around with the title of Petya.
Yes. Bet you didn't see that coming.
Yeah, you were waiting on that, weren't you?
You've been holding on to that one, haven't you?
I've been physically assaulted by that. So, Petya, Petya, is a ransomware. That essentially does the same thing WannaCry did, which uses these tools and backdoors to encrypt files on infected systems and then demand a ransom in the form of Bitcoin, and that has a email address that you would email receipt of payment to and all of that kind of stuff, and then get a key. The thing is, it was basically like hobbled out of the gate by its own creator because it initially appeared in Ukraine. And then after that initial appearance in the Ukraine, the address that was used to send out these encrypted keys was discontinued. It was no longer like it was a targeted attack that they only needed to get one payment or something like that, but it since has gone out to infect systems and people haven't been able to unlock it. Furthermore, now the address that I've recently located new news, the address that is used to send the payment to is no longer active. The people who provide that address have pulled support for that address. So now people can't even pay the ransom of people who were paying the ransom. And the people who did pay the ransom aren't getting their keys. And so what I think it is sort of a common, it's
not just that. It's also service providers are blocking that those addresses.
Yeah. So essentially, this is ransomware that is even worse than some ransomware where if you paid the ransom, you'd get it back. You can't. If you get this, it's gone. You have to completely wipe your system because it's encrypted in a military grade encryption.
Well, bet you saw some history repeating on this one.
Yeah.
There was actually a little county hospital, nonprofit hospital, just recently that had to scrap their entire computer system because of this virus. They ended up, they had to go back to paper because they got hit with it. It got all the systems except for like a couple that were offline, and they have their backups, but they have to put an entire new system in place. In the meantime, all the doctors and nurses and everything are doing everything on paper because they got hit with the ransomware because the ISPs blocked anything going back out to the IP addresses associated with paying. They couldn't even do that. Cybersecurity experts and the FBI were notified, and eventually they both said, you're just going to have to scrap your whole system. So
that sucks.
This is a non-profit hospital, not a for-profit one. So that's a little bit different too, you know. So they basically are going to have to replace everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they had to cancel elective surgeries and everything else, and they were almost in trouble because they didn't have any long forms printed out.
Yeah.
It was only because there was like one older lady who decided to print out and have a physical backup copy of each of those long forms that they needed. They hadn't been used for years and years and years. And she had those in a filing cabinet somewhere. It's the only reason they weren't 100% hosed, because even those were on the computers and they couldn't print. So it was.
Well, that person needs to get a raise.
Yeah. She deserves recognition
or
for
praised. Yeah.
sticking to the old ways.
Yeah. In this case, you should be like, you were awesome.
Yeah. She
Thank
managed
you.
to save an entire hospital, basically. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I bet you this is not going to be the last time we're going to hear about this sort of ransomware.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Moving on, another couple of little tidbits. Firstly, we have an announcement from Blizzard for the HD re-release, the remaster release of StarCraft, which is going to include the base game plus the Brood War expansion. This is a re-release of the game that is already available. You can still get it for free if you have a Battle.net account or a Blizzard.net account or whatever they're called these days.
Blizzard, I think.
But the remastered one will feature 4K resolution support, improved graphics, improved multiplayer support, and modern features such as stat tracking and cloud saving. It's going to cost about $14.99 US.
Now you have to have the original game.
Yeah, but the original base game is available for free.
Exactly.
So you have to get that. But this is sort of a way of updating that. So you don't have to pay for it other than the $14.99 if you want the 4K resolution, extra blah blah and things like that. Now the other thing is, if at any time you don't like the new look or anything like that, you can switch back to the old graphics and still keep things like the multiplayer support and the stat tracking and things like that. So you can still play multiplayer and keep the original look.
Interesting.
So that's an interesting thing, is that they're bringing it up there. And I think it's because it's still kind of a cash cow for them.
It is, because it's still played in tournaments.
It's still a major esport kind of thing.
StarCraft is considered still a more balanced, refined game
StarCraft 2?
than StarCraft 2. StarCraft 1.
Yeah, this is StarCraft 1. This is your original. You'll be able to play it with the updated graphics if you so choose, if you pay them $15.
This game's like 18 years old. So $15, and you get some new skins too.
So it is possible in the future that Diva can be
Quite possible. They're going to keep this thing going. Another kind of thing that was sort of, last minute, Palmer Luckey's back in the news. The guy who created Oculus Rift.
Oh, yeah.
He's back in the news for making a sizable donation to a hack community, a fan community, that is dedicated to breaking the exclusivity on Oculus products and making those things available for HTC products, for the Valve product.
For HTC Valve.
He's essentially shot his own product in the foot.
Well, he kind of got pushed out.
To.
He's gotten pushed out on kind of crappy terms too.
Yeah.
So, Lucky Palmer Luckey is I kind of like him. He's a little bit of a troll, you know. He's what's the other gentleman, like the pharmacist guy that bought the Wu-Tang Clan album?
Shkreli.
Martin Shkreli. Yeah. Same thing. He's starting to kind of get beloved because of doing trolly things like this.
Yep. So yeah, he has made on the Patreon for Revive. He has made an apparent $2,000 a month pledge to continue support for this for them breaking the exclusivity of products that are made for the Oculus.
That's pocket change for him. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
The creators, the people who support Oculus currently say that this is the program is kind of already going to be dead in the water because subsequent updates to the programming and the games that they have for the Oculus are going to negate any sort of thing that they can make to break that exclusivity. So it's going to become the old
cat and mouse.
It's going to become the old PSP homebrew battle, where Sony was essentially just releasing update after update for the PSPs to make it so that people couldn't homebrew them and play emulators on their PlayStation portables.
Well, I got one last little tidbit that actually just came out today. So AMD, has launched their Ryzen processors, and we've seen these now in the market here for a little bit, and we've seen Intel's knee-jerk reactions with the i9s and a couple other things because of all the cores and everything like this. Well, apparently this is there's actually now the numbers have finally come out for the second quarter, and AMD has managed to take over 10% of the CPU share from Intel in the second quarter of 2017 with the Ryzen processor.
That's unprecedented, isn't it?
It's been like a decade since this has happened. I mean, this is why we're seeing these knee jerks going on from Intel, as AMD is going to be back on top of their game. It's been since like the early 2000s since it's been like this, and to go from 20% of the market share to now 30% of the market share in 3 months.
It's not bad.
That's a good trend.
Good.
Yeah,
that's a good competitive trend, especially now that I hear that there are reports of hyper-threading going on with some of the i9s and.
Oh yeah, there's some issues with the i9s and they're hyper-threading and not actually really hyper-threading.
Yeah.
Oops.
Uh-oh. That's not good. We'll keep an eye on that one, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I wanted to get that little tidbit in there. So,
yeah, I'm tapped. Yeah.
Yep. Ha. All right, so this has been the GACC podcast for the week. You can listen to us on iTunes, and you can listen to us on Google. You want to do this, or do you want to stay quiet?
Go ahead.
Go for it.
We don't let him do it. Yeah, please finish us up.
No, you want to
Or Google.
Yeah.
Please follow us on YouTube and follow us on VidMe. And we thank you for your time.
See you, folks.
Bye-bye now.
It has the one of the anime styles of it, but then it's like we have like Indigo Ignited coming out here. That is.
Then you have Steven Universe, and then you have Adventure Time.
Steven Universe is straight child's cartoon.
Straight child's cartoon.
Yeah, that's not
so
anime style.